Our next speaker, founding member of the King County LP, former Region 3 Director, current webmaster for King County LP, vice chair of our campaign committee, and currently running as lieutenant governor, running for lieutenant governor as a libertarian. Genuinely the nicest man in this room, even though he's a Georgia Tech fan. Ladies and gentlemen, St. Paul Addis.
Thank you very much for letting me talk tonight. I do like to talk. I'm not going to talk a lot about my campaign. I'm going to do a speech for you guys. I do want to mention the campaign, though, and I'm running for lieutenant governor. One of the reasons I think that lieutenant governor is tailor-made for a libertarian is because the main two jobs of the lieutenant governor in Washington is, number one, to be the president of the Senate, which means he or she facilitates the debate on the Senate floor. So in the position of a third party, where you're facilitating debate between members of the two top parties, I think it's like a referee, and I think anybody that's a sports fan would realize you wouldn't want the referee to be representing one of the two teams that's playing in the game. So I think that would appeal to most voters, also because I do not take money from corporations, PACs, unions, special interests, which I think is a concern that's shared by many people. The Trump supporters like it that he doesn't take the money because he got his own. The Bernie supporters like it because he's against crony corporatism. So I think that shared concern is something that I can appeal to say, I will be the referee in the Senate to make sure that the debate that goes on will be fair and equal for everybody, and not just be a partisan for the big money special interest or for the partisan politics. And thank you. The second job of the lieutenant governor is also very important, and that is to help appoint members to committees. All these committees you talk about, like the Deed of Trust Act and the non-judicial foreclosure and the industrial hemp, all these things that we talk about, these issues, they have to go through committees to determine what gets voted on and what bill gets through to get voted on. So the person that's helping to appoint these committees is important in that sense, like a gatekeeper. So again, someone who is not beholden to the political parties or beholden to the corporate interests would be a great person, I think, and that would be the appeal to the voter as well, to say I would make sure, in the way I would judge who to put on a committee would be, what does their voting record show? Are they voting against what the voice of the people, or are they voting against the corporation, the interest of the people that are lining the pockets of the politicians? So just in that basic appeal, where we're not talking about issues per se, because the lieutenant governor is not authoring legislation or voting on legislation, so it's not really an issue-driven position. It's more of a fairness position, a kind of a referee, so to speak, as I've mentioned. So I think that this position, more than any, is tailor-made this year with this anti-establishment sentiment that's going across the country. I think that this is the year for a position like this, for the libertarian to stand up and say, we're not part of the problem. And honestly, look, if I didn't think the system was broken in some way, I wouldn't be running anyway. If I thought everything was working fine, I wouldn't need to do this. But I think it is broken in some way, and I think we're seeing that in the sentiment in the community and in our society today with all the stuff you see going on around the country. So I think we can make that appeal anyway. I think that's going to help. The position is great. I think we've got a great platform, and I think the people are going to listen to that. So I do want to mention, this is the end of my campaign thing. I've got envelopes on the tables, so please, while I'm speaking, if you like what you're hearing, or even if you don't, you just like the fact that I'm a libertarian, please put some money in there, fill it out, and you can give it to my wife. And I want to take this time to mention my wife, Kathy, is here. Beautiful, wonderful, smart wife. In 18 days, in 18 days, we're going to celebrate our 18th wedding anniversary. So and just like Kathy, our marriage gets better every day. It's a wonderful thing. So all you people thinking about getting married, don't let all these naysayers steer you wrong. It gets better every day. So we're going to be 18 years and 18 days. Now, speaking of Kathy, Kathy's been with me on some of, you've heard people maybe mention earlier something about some of my activism or something. So Kathy went with me. I think I'm probably the only person that I can think of that in 2014, Kathy and I went to the Bundy Ranch in Nevada to stand up against the BLM and what they were doing there. And I may be the only person that was at the Bundy Ranch standing up against the BLM and in Ferguson marching with Jesse Jackson and Black Lives Matter against what was happening there, the reaction to what was happening there with the militarization of the police and that response. And I did, in both cases, I did that because I see those issues as human issues, not racial issues or political issues. So that's what drives me. And by the way, if I get emotional up here, I want you to know it's tears of joy, because what I'm seeing here in the couple of years I've been involved with the LPWA, when you were little, you remember like the first time you rode a bike or you got on a skateboard and maybe you decided to go down the big hill. You thought, well, that's cool. Now I can ride it now. And it starts getting a little faster. Now you try the hill and you're like halfway down. You're like, oh my gosh, this is getting really fast. It's kind of exhilarating and kind of scary. That's what I feel like right now, because 2 years ago, we had 12 candidates. We had the party wasn't as big as growing as it is now. Now I look at this and what I've seen today, and I think, wow, it's kind of exhilarating, kind of scary. This thing's going a little faster. It's going to grow. I get that feeling. I hope you do too. And I can only imagine. Don't be scared. It's only going to get better. It's only going to go faster and get bigger. So thank you for all you guys being here. Now, some of you may know this about me, that I spent 4 years working for the NSA and military intelligence, and my job was to listen in, so I was basically a glorified eavesdropper to North Korea, to military communications with North Korea. It was interesting because I was getting to listen to people. This was mostly military communications, but they did talk about things other than just military, and it was interesting because I'm listening to people who live in a place where they have no freedom, really, any practical freedom. This is a place where tyranny, authoritarianism is the rule of the day. And you hear these people talking about lack of food, lack of fuel, and things, and it's sad. It breaks your heart. But recently, I was in D.C. at the International Students for Liberty Conference, and I had the honor of hearing another voice from North Korea, a young lady by the name of Yeonmi Park, who through many trials and tribulations somehow made it out of North Korea and into South Korea through the help of people and honestly just the grace of God, I imagine. She got to talk. This diminutive young lady spoke more profoundly about freedom and liberty than anything I had ever heard. She talked about her experiences in North Korea and her experiences coming into the free society. And I think it's because she lived under that kind of rule, that tyranny. It's that relativity that she was able to explain in ways I had never thought of, because I grew up here in America. And so some of the things she said that I hope I never forget, a few things. One of the things, and I just want to relate this to you because not all of you were there, you didn't get to hear her, but she's got a book, Yeonmi Park, and the name escapes me of the book, but anyway, I just got to reading it, so I can think of it. But anyway, I want to relate some of the things that she said that I thought were very profound and really moved me. One was, she said that someone asked her, she talked about how when she grew up there, even as a child, she sang a few of the songs for us. Like, they taught her to sing songs like Kill the American, or whatever, and they were taught that you can't even say the word American without saying American bastard. I mean, seriously, like, they would get in trouble if, even as a child, they said, like, in class, that the American is bad. Well, no, you got to say the American bastard is bad, or you get in trouble if you don't say that. So they're brainwashed, basically, in many ways. They thought that the mice could hear what they were saying and would tell the dear leader, and also they were brainwashed. And someone asked her after her speech, how can that brainwashing, the effect of that brainwashing, ever be erased? Because that's many years. Now, she was, I guess, around 19 or maybe a little younger when she got out. So that was many years of being brainwashed. How does that ever get erased? And she told a story about when the first time she landed at an American airport, because, of course, she'd been hearing this all her life about Americans are there to kill you, and they're monsters and all this. And what she said was, it was in Texas, was the first place she ever came in America, and she was getting ready to get off the plane, and in her head, even though she'd been in South Korea for on a free country, she was thinking, when I get off this plane, they're going to kill me. These American bastards are going to kill me. And when she got off the plane and realized she saw people walking around wearing their blue jeans, eating their potato chips, not really paying much attention to her at all, just going about their business. She said in that moment, she realized all that stuff she had been told was not true, and it went away like that. And the point that I took away with that is that truth will win over the lies. It doesn't matter how many lies people have been told. I know, again, we've been told that we like to argue, we like to reason, the libertarians. The people that we call Bernie supporters or Trump supporters, these are just people, and they believe whatever they believe, like we believe what we believe. But if they see the truth about us, they meet us, they see us, that all that stuff that we worry about them being brainwashed or whatever, it can go away if we just show them love and humanity and compassion. I think all that stuff can go away like that. But we need to be those people that show them something different than what they think. Because when we do that, we can break through all that a lot easier than trying to argue with them on Facebook. So another thing she said, which I thought was very interesting, was when she got to South Korea, somebody asked her, "What's your favorite color?" And she thought that was the strangest question, because she thought, what's my favorite color? Like, she had grown up where all the decisions were made for her. So that honestly, she not only did she not really know how to answer the question, but she didn't want to answer the question. She was basically thinking, just tell me what you want me to say. Because so it was just from her growing up in that society where all the choices were made for her. She didn't make choices. But she also understood, she said, it was scary because if I choose, let's say I choose the color blue. If I choose a color, then I'm responsible for the consequences of the choices I make. So choosing the color blue was scary for her, or any color, because then she's responsible for the consequences of those choices. So think about that. We fight for the right to have free choice. We want free choice in education, what to smoke, whatever. But that's part of the story. But remember, we have to remember, I think, that we are responsible for the consequences of the choices we make. So having the free choice brings that responsibility. I thought that was very profound. Someone also, the last thing that I got from her speech was another person had asked her about the reunification of North and South Korea. And said, do you think they should reunite? Do you want them to reunite like East and West Germany did? And she said, yeah, in general, I would rather have one Korea than two Koreas. But she said the thing is, I don't like thinking about it in those terms, because we have these artificial borders and we categorize people as you're North Korean or South Korean or you're this or that. And she said, I really like to think of it more as we're all human beings, in that she now has an American boyfriend. I got to meet him too. He was there with her. And so she was basically saying, who would have thought her future boyfriend would be an American bastard? And she said, you should think, who knows, maybe your future partner is right now living under tyranny in North Korea. So there was another thing she talked about, where these borders and these delineations and categories, while she would love to see Korea reunified, it was more important that people see everyone as human beings, not just where you are on a map. So I thought that was very profound as well. But one of the most important things I would like for us to understand tonight as we go forward is that we are all in this together. And when I say this, I mean this struggle to determine what kind of society we're going to have. We all want to have a free society where people can determine who they are and what they are. And that's the struggle for a free society. That's the this, I mean when I say we are in this together. The we is everybody. So the we is you in this room, everybody in the country, everybody in the state, everybody in the cities, everybody, all the Democrats, all the Republicans, all the apolitical, the religious people, the atheists. We are all in this together. We're all trying to determine that for ourselves, what kind of society we're going to have. We're one part of it, but we're all part of the same, this big human, this ship of humanity that's moving through time and space. And we're all trying to determine where we're going. And some of our weapons are at times political. And some of our weapons are the promotion of the free markets. And I want you to understand something about this free market thing, is that it's not a zero-sum game. It's a magical thing, really. It actually can create something out of nothing. And I know that seems impossible, but I'd like to explain what I mean. So let me give you a little scenario real quick. So let's say we have this hypothetical situation where you have, say, let's call her Mrs. A, and you have a Mr. B. Mrs. A, she's kind of hungry, but she doesn't really have anything on her right now. But let's say in this scenario, she's got a basketball, and that's not helping her out with her hunger. She's mildly satisfied with her situation at this time, but she's a little hungry. Now you got this guy, Mr. B, we're going to throw into this hypothetical situation, and let's say he has a bag of apples. Mr. B's got a bag of apples, and he's not all that hungry because he just ate, but one thing he does love to do is he loves to play basketball. So, as you can imagine, in this little hypothetical situation, now again, Mr. B is also mildly satisfied with his position at this time, this situation. But let's say, as you can imagine, they decide to trade without coercion amongst themselves with the assets they have. So, Mr. B gives his apples to Mrs. A. Mrs. A gives her basketball to Mr. B. Now, what you have here in this hypothetical microeconomical closed system was basically two people and two objects and a mild level of satisfaction and happiness. Now, certainly, Mr. B is much more happy because he's got his basketball, he can go play basketball. And Mrs. A, who's hungry, now has apples. So on both sides, their happiness has increased. So what we've got here, with no more inputs into the system, the same thing we started off with, two people and two objects, now the happiness has increased with the same system. So we just created something out of nothing, and that's a simplified way of saying this is what the free markets can do, and they do it all the time. They do it every day. The problem is we don't live in that world that's so closed. One of the problems is there's something that consistently obstructs this struggle for this happy society where we all do what we want to make ourselves happy with mutual trade, non-coercive trade. And that's government. The thing that gets in the way all the time is government with their obtrusive policies and their repressive legislation that comes in the way. So just imagine that Mr. B, let's say he had wanted to get his apples from a local producer, but of course the big agri-fruit corporations and their lobbyists have paid off the politicians to put some legislation out there that would close down the small farmers. So now he can't get as good of apples, and maybe he can't get them at all because he doesn't have, his local farmer just got shut down. Well, let's say he does get them. He gives them to Mrs. A, and she eats her apple, and she throws her apple core into the trash can, and she happens to live in downtown Seattle. Well, how is it going to affect her happiness level when the trash man comes by, and don't think I'm making this up because I'm not, when the trash man comes by and looks in the trash and realizes that she's got more than 10% of bio waste in her regular trash, and she gets fined for that. I think I'm making that up, but I'm not. That's going to diminish her happiness for sure. Now, let's look at Mr. B. He wants to play basketball, but unfortunately the basketball that he got for his apples is made out of leather. And the rubber companies and their lobbyists have paid the politicians to make sure they get some legislation that's favorable to the rubber companies. So now leather is outlawed in the state of Washington. So, and I'm making that up, but it's not too far from the truth probably. So now he can't play basketball, and if he could go down there, you know what? His basketball court got closed because they didn't have the requisite 3-foot fence within 20 feet of the court, so the kids don't run on the court and get hit and they have the basketball because, well, the children. So that's going to diminish his happiness a lot if he can't play basketball now that he's given up his apples. So my point is, this is what we face. You see what we're facing here. What should be a happy, free society, which we love, is the government is getting in the way of that. The good thing is we have a great weapon in this, a great ally in this, and that is liberty. And liberty, it's like the wind. It's something that you can't see, but you certainly feel it when it's blowing, and you certainly miss it when it's gone, because that refreshing wind, you miss that when it's gone. The winds of liberty are blowing once again in this country, and that wind is growing. The government has gotten itself involved in too many areas of our lives. Our liberties are being infringed through unwarranted government spying, through free speech zones, as we've heard before, federal overreach in states' affairs. This wind of liberty can't be stopped, and our movement can't be stopped because we're riding this wind towards a bright future. A future where everyone has the right to self-determination. Parents determine how they educate their kids. Consumers determine what products are being offered in the market. Families determine how to protect themselves. Patients and doctors determine what their healthcare options will be. Communities of individuals determine what they will do for each other for the benefit of all. And while the wind of liberty can't be stopped, like the wind, it can be harnessed. So when we hold events like this, and we run for office, and we do all this activity we're doing, we're putting up sails to harness this wind. And those sails on this great ship of humanity that I mentioned earlier, this is what's going to push us forward in the direction we want to be. We've been in the doldrums too long. This ship has been lagging in the doldrums. And now the wind is blowing again. You can feel it. You see it out there. You see we get national attention on the TV now, our libertarian, people. You see this libertarian moment happening. And the good thing, too, is we've got sailors up in the crow's nest that are shouting out, land ho. And they see the land ahead, this freedom land that we are moving towards, that this wind of liberty is blowing us towards. These are voices like Michael Pickens, who inspires and motivates individuals to do more than they ever thought possible. These are voices like, give it up for Michael Pickens. Or as Jeb Bush would say, please clap. Or voices like Tiffany Diaz de Leon, before you run out the back door, who shows us how to organize people from different backgrounds into a powerful force for good, like she's doing over in Region 3. Voices like Alan Acosta, who show us, who lead by example by reaching out to those most in need with compassion. Voices like Johnny Rocket Adams and Heather, the voice of reason, Nixon, who show us how to use your own unique way and have your own unique voice in promoting liberty. I love all you guys. Voices like Stephen Nielsen, our chairperson, who promotes the best of humanity using love, logic, and liberty to steer this organization while courageously withstanding the slings and arrows that inevitably come his way. I can hear these voices. Can you? And I can hear about the land that they're speaking of. I can see it. And we're heading that way. So I say to you tonight, lift up your sails. Lift up your sails by volunteering for a campaign. Lift up your sails by starting or joining a local libertarian meetup party in your community. Lift up your sails by donating to or joining the party here in Washington State. Lift up your sails in whatever way you feel moved to do it. But please, the wind is blowing. Lift up your sails and harness this power of liberty, just as we all are here tonight. Continue doing that. Together, with our sails lifted, we can move this ship forward together. We're in this together, and together is the only way to get there. Back to the land of the free and the brave, the home of the brave. That's where we're going, and that's where we belong, every one of us. Thank you.